Welcome to Specifically About Quality, the podcast by Qualitywise, where we explore the principles, practices, and challenges of modern quality management. We will discuss key concepts, share real-world examples, and bring clarity to the complexities of quality management. In each episode, we provide insights for quality managers and professionals, helping you lead with confidence, ensure compliance, and drive continuous improvement. This podcast is here to support your work and your impact. Clear, focused, practical. Let's get into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to Specifically About Quality. This is a place where we talk about the real-world challenges in quality management and how to create systems that actually work. I'm Agata Lewkowska, a quality management system consultant with years in the automotive industry. And today with me is Christopher Scott.
And I'm Christopher Scott, here with you as well. I focus on quality assurance and operational excellence, particularly in the automotive manufacturing. Before we dive in, thank you so much for listening to Specific About Quality, a podcast by Qualitywise. If you enjoy what we do here, please follow us and leave a comment. It really means a lot to us, and it helps us know these conversations matter.
Today's episode comes directly from many questions we get during trainings and consulting. How do we move from firefighting mode to a stable, proactive process culture?
Exactly. We'll talk about why firefighting persists, how to build process ownership, and share real examples of companies that made the shift away from firefighting.
So let's start with why firefighting is so common. Many teams operate in a reactive mode, rushing from one defect, complaint, or line stop to the next.
It's often a vicious cycle. Lack of root cause thinking, insufficient process understanding, and weak documentation. These all contribute to the problems. People get praised for solving emergencies, but no one is fixing the underlying problems.
In our client, a Tier 1 automotive supplier, 70% of quality meetings were about reacting to defects, not improving processes. So imagine there were many functions from different departments which were talking about the problems from previous days, but no one was concentrating on the future direction. So people become, I will call them firefighting heroes, but systemic issues still remained.
We hear this a lot. We're too busy firefighting to improve, but the reality is, until you build up process ownership, firefighting never ends. And I can say this in my own personal experience when I was an automotive customer. Firefighting becomes the norm, as we said earlier, and it's about saving the day and being the hero and fixing the tooling problems or the suppliers that stop your production line. I think what I'd like to move on is, what is process ownership and what does it mean? In simple terms, it's when a person or a team takes full responsibility for the performance of a process. This is the input, the outputs, the different risks, and the controls, but also the improvement activities that are needed to improve the process itself.
Yes, and actually the ownership, I would say, includes understanding how the process flows. So we know if we're talking about manufacturing process, the key parameters, what are the monitoring variations, how we react to trends, but we are not just reacting to failures, yes? This is the example of manufacturing processes, but let's remember that we have also different processes in quality management system, like even managing and supporting. However, manufacturing process is a good example because this is the process which is creating the value for the customer. Yes, that's why I would like to pay your attention specifically to this kind of the process. However, let's remember, this what we are saying can be widely applied in different kind of the processes.
And it's not just limited to quality. And you'll hear us say this in every podcast and most of our live webinars as well. Ownership should live in operations. This is production and so on, logistics, engineering, maintenance, and all the other departments that are involved in the quality management system itself.
Yes, because everyone who is in our organization is under quality management system. The only thing is in which processes they are allocated. It can be even that such people like, let's say, people from maintenance are in two separate processes. They are portion of the operational process and their own processes as well. Everything depends only on this, how we have this defined in our organization. But if we are talking about the ownership, let's remember that even when we are talking about establishing quality management system from the ISO 9001 perspective, each process needs to have assigned responsibilities and authorities. So this is from the very beginning something which must be defined. Let's go deeper into automotive quality management system. And here we have a certain obligation that process owners must be identified by whom? By top management, who takes the responsibility overall about the quality management system. And let's remember that the process owners shall understand their roles, and what's more, they need to be competent to perform those roles. And this is really important because they need to take certain decisions to assure that the processes are assuring the intended outcomes. So let's talk about building this ownership, okay? How can you move from firefighting to this ownership? And let's be practical, okay? I would start with maybe clarifying process map and responsibilities. Chris, will you talk about this?
Absolutely. So start with clear process maps. Define who owns that. Too many companies have vague flows and no one knows where the problems originate. And in IATF 6949, some of you will have heard of the turtle diagram. And that's a great way of understanding the process inputs, the outputs, and the different departments and different flows into the process itself. There's many different diagrams. There's many different types of process flow diagrams. In some cases, you might use something like a pipeline type diagram to explain your production processes and all of your external factors like suppliers and third-party logistics into that. There's many different types, and there's not one rule that you can use as long as it's identifying the risks and the inputs and outputs.
But let's remember, a turtle diagram itself is not meeting fully the requirements under quality management system, okay? Another thing, what I would say, is to train on process thinking. So actually, each person in our organization should think about processes. Not that I am in a department, yes, because department is not responsible for the outcome of the processes, because many people from many different departments can be allocated to a certain process. And manufacturing process is a perfect example for this, where we can have people from operations, from quality, from engineering, from maintenance even, yes, from laboratory. So you see, at least 5 different functions, yes? But if we are thinking about processes, we people, we know what are the inputs, how we are controlling this process, how we work to have it in a standardized way, always repeatable, yes? And we know what are expected outputs. So this is important also to have this awareness, yes? And ideally would be if process owner who will be responsible for designing the process. Let's say he has a free sheet, a white paper, and can write everything down, how he sees or she sees this process being performed in the future. It is really a good advice to have people who will be involved in this process, to discuss all the potential, what this process can do, how can do, with whom, with which documentation, how it will be monitored, yes, what will be the risks, and so on and so on. So let's remember also that it may be a little bit difficult to invite, of course, people from the shop floor to participate in designing such process, but let's be frank, the knowledge can be cascaded. Operators next to the machines, they do not need to know that there is a turtle, okay? But they need to know what they have to do in a certain process. So this means that they need to be trained according to the knowledge which is needed for this process. And this is our obligation. Probably the process owner need to designate a certain person who will be a kind of gatekeeper to assure this knowledge will be cascaded, either in the working instructions or in some other way. So maybe another step, what I would suggest, Chris, is maybe defining indicators.
Yeah, so these are leading indicators. So from manufacturing processes that don't just track defects, track indicators like process capability. So we mentioned before about CPCPK in our other podcast, which you're more than welcome to listen to. First time yield. So this is, right first time as well. Downtime causes that are stopping the process. Ownership grows when people manage what drives results. The same for other kind of processes. So these are things like managerial processes or supporting processes as well. There could be some decision-making processes or maybe concern escalation. Let's say you've got a critical issue inside your factory and it needs to be escalated to a level above and a level above. And this could be something that needs to be driven as well, because that will drive results.
Also, we mentioned already about this, that turtle does not have all the necessary elements which are required by the system. But one of this element will be definitely risk-based thinking, identification simply risks and opportunities. And here, that's why emphasize as another step how to build this ownership, that we should be aware of these risks and opportunities as well, which can be present in our processes. Yes, because we need to evaluate also the processes and maybe propose changes because it will result from our risks or opportunities. Opportunities can improve our processes. Yes. So this is again aligned with maybe continuous improvement in our organization. But also, let's maybe talk as the last advice, maybe how to build this ownership about maybe recognizing the ownership behavior, Chris.
Yeah, finally, leadership must recognize when people show ownership, when a team identifies a risk and fixes it before the actual defect happens or the line stops or the production upsets the customer. This reinforces proactive culture.
So these were steps to build ownership. But now let's talk about, let's say, common pitfalls. Yes, and how we can overcome them to be more practical for our listeners.
Well, one thinking is that quality alone owns stability, and we keep talking about this, and we'll always talk about this. The quality department and quality function doesn't own the stability of the process itself. We're all involved and we help facilitate as quality professionals. No, production, maintenance, engineering, all must be involved.
From my experiences, I must tell you simply that many times I see I don't have time, I don't have capacity for taking the ownership of the things, but it is not the way we shall work, yes? Of course, I understand that automotive industry is very dynamic and intensive. However, let's remember that we can delegate some tasks always, yes? And this will also help to assure at the end meeting the requirements, yes? And this is what our processes shall deliver.
And that's a great point. Finally, I'd like to add, don't expect instant culture change. Change takes time, and it takes a lot of people to adapt to that change, understand it, and overcome it. It takes consistent reinforcement. In one example that we worked with one of our clients, it took more than 6 months to move one site from 80% reactive to 50% preventative work. But the important thing is if you've got those type of metrics you're measuring, you can see the improvement. And I like to say it all the time in our consultations with our customers, to measure is to know. And if you're not measuring it, you can't improve it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is really good what you've said. So this is about taking the decisions based on the data, yes? Let me just emphasize that the role of the process owners is really crucial. It's not only just another role next to our functional role, but this is also something which can really drive strong results for quality management system processes. And let's remember, during the audits, the auditor will be interested in our processes because he will be also applying process approach. Either this will be third-party audit or first-party audits, yes? So please remember that your process owners must be knowledgeable people and aware what is happening. They also should have an authority for taking decisions, modifying these processes, to change these processes, especially that they will observe that from monitoring perspective, the processes are not meeting the intended results, okay? So I would say these are the most maybe important things at the end, what we've said for you, how this ownership can be strengthened. But let's remember that the leadership must also support process owners. That's why maybe no wonder why the process owners' requirements are light in the leadership section.
Agata, I'd like to ask you a question on your view and what you've seen with our customers and maybe when you were also a supplier. Is it acceptable for a process owner to write the procedure even if it involves other people in the organization? So let's say this is quality, they write the procedure, but it mentions from a RASIC perspective, who should do what? Do you think they should get buy-in in that stage? They should be a part of that procedure because in my experience, if you name the department, they should be aware that they are being named and they have an action to do or there's something they need to do in the procedure. How would you approach that?
Definitely process owners must be competent people. Probably they can be subject matter expert in this what is connected to their processes. For instance, if we have special processes and they are having engineering background, yes, definitely. These are the people who can at least approve the working instructions created by someone else. But everything depends on how we define the things in our organization. What will be allowed? What will be the responsibility even? Is it my free will that I will approve the procedure or this is a must? Yes, because this is according to RASIC, my responsibility. So it can be organized in a different way, depending on their organization, I would say.
I think some of the issues that I see, maybe to some of our listeners and subscribers to this podcast, as well as Qualitywise trainings, I've seen issues as a customer where some department will write the procedure, but they don't involve the people that it affects. So, for example, if it's returned to vendor and you're talking about sending defective product back to a supplier, well, it's logistics that are involved. If quality write that procedure and they don't involve the people of who should do what and when, then they're not aware of that procedure. And there's a number of non-conformances that I've given suppliers because they have a procedure that was written by an armchair analyst, but they haven't actually done the work. They haven't trained the people. They're not aware of the procedure itself. And that's where they can get some easy non-conformances.
If you're listening and thinking, this is exactly what we struggle with, we're not alone. Most companies want to move beyond firefighting, but needs a structured approach. At Qualitywise, we offer tailored trainings and coaching to help teams build process ownership, whether through workshops, audits, or hands-on facilitation.
You can visit us at qualitywise.pl to learn more. And for today's listeners, we've prepared a free download, a practical guide to building process ownership from firefighting to stability. You'll find steps, examples, and a checklist to support your organization.
Thanks for joining specifically about quality today. If you have ideas, questions, or experiences to add, please share them in the comments. And don't forget to like and share this episode. It helps us reach more quality professionals like you. See you in the next episode.